We are here at the Atlanta Ballet with some great dancers who are all part of the Nutcracker. We're going to show you how they put this ballet together, but first we're going to start with a little behind-the-scenes look at the costume shop. We are in the costume shop at the Atlanta Ballet, and we are with Colleen McGonegle, who is the costume manager. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So we are surrounded by costumes that you're actually building for a show that y'all are going to put on in the spring, you know, if everything works out right.
Yes, most of the costumes that we're currently working on are for Snow White, our children's show choreographed by Bruce Wells.
And these folks are actually putting together Snow White's costume as we speak, is that right?
Yes, yes. We saved the best for last. We had worked on the butterfly corps and some other characters, but now we're working on Snow White herself. So.
But this is also where you have put together the 200 costumes that you have for the Nutcracker.
This is part of the place. The Nutcracker actually took about 2 years of planning and work, and it was spread out through shops throughout the world, really. We had makers in the UK, we had makers in Germany, we had people in Seattle working on them. Because it is 200 costume pieces and we're such a small shop, we had to sort of spread the workload.
And then they mail them back to you, or?
They would actually travel with them. They would, from the UK, they actually came by boat. And they put them on, they packed them up and sent them, and then they flew over and we did fittings together, and then they sort of handed things off to us, and then we finished construction, so. And
we talked about how the dancers will sometimes tear something, and in fact, this is a very vigorous activity, and you have to be ready with a needle and thread during performances when something gets ripped or comes apart.
Yes, it is, as beautiful as all of these costumes look, they put up with so much wear and tear. I mean, the dancers, it's extremely physical, and so they go through a lot.
And some of them are harder on costumes than others, I suppose.
I mean, yes, but that is true in every field I've worked in, so.
And now you have some of the folks who have been part of the Nutcracker modeling some of the costumes right now that you'd like to introduce us to.
Yes, if I can have our Act 1, our Gossip and Maid.
Gossip Girl and Maid, and would you tell a little bit about the costumes and how they were constructed?
So the reason we have these two costumes together, they're both in Act 1, but they tell very different tales about our characters. As you can see, Caitlin in her Gossip is outside with her hat and her coat, and unfortunately never gets invited to the party. They just move on. Whereas Georgie is working inside as a maid and has her apron. Both of these dresses are constructed with movement in mind. Sandra Woodall, the costume designer for the piece, is very conscious about how the dresses move and flow. So in the case of the Gossip skirt, it's an incredibly lightweight layers of chiffon so that it catches the air and just moves beautifully on stage. Georgie's is a little bit heavier silk, but she still has her little ruffles at the hem to give her sort of a fluttery movement.
And these are both made of silk?
Yes, they are all made silk and wool.
And you mentioned that some of your costumes you keep them for years.
Yes.
So you sew them back together again and get them ready for the next crowd coming through.
Yes, these costumes, I think, Caitlin, have you worn yours a couple of years in a row now? And so, yeah, every year, if we can, we try to put the same dancer back in the same costume, but if it's a new person to a new role, then we alter it to fit that new person.
And then she takes it home and throws it in the washing machine, or?
No, we don't let things out of the building.
No.
The same people who are there and taking care of repairs then also take care of the laundry in the evenings.
So, and thank you so much for coming out. And you have two folks from the second act of the Nutcracker. Tell us about them. Thank you both.
Okay, so next up we have our snow costume.
Brilliant.
And we're giving Miss Winnie a bit more space.
And so now, when they build a costume like this, do they have to build it right on you?
We sent measurements, and because all of the makers have worked with dancers, they can generally make the pattern without seeing, but this particular costume was made in Germany, and Birgit, who was the maker, flew over and we did fittings, and then she flew back and finished the costumes, and then came back and we did our second round of fittings to make sure that everything was just the way she wanted it.
And so that was at least 2 transatlantic flights for that costume.
Yes, yeah.
And then somebody came with the costume when it came here.
Yes. Well, actually, Birgit had managed to spiral these skirts into her luggage and brought them with her, which was an amazing thing to watch them sort of in a magical box kind of way. All of these skirts just kept coming out of this very small piece of luggage.
Because talk about the what makes the form remain. You have a kind of steel in there that holds that.
This is actually, in the skirt itself, is actually a carbon rod that we get from kite making suppliers.
Pipe making?
Kite.
Oh, kite making suppliers.
Yes, which
all right.
is a thing that I was unaware of until I had to source it. But yes, it helps keep the shape of the skirt. Yuri wanted, when they do a spin, for it to flatten out a bit and look a bit more like a snowflake. And so this was the technique that Birgit, the maker, and Sandra, the designer, came up with.
And of course, in the old days, they used whalebone, but they don't have as much whalebone now.
Yes, in the bodice, there's the spiral steel, and the whalebone is what used to be used. But yes, not anymore.
And you have another costume that you would like to show us, is that right?
Yes, our final one for today is our flower.
Thank you so much.
So this is the flower core in Act 2.
So, and you have a kind of a woodland theme in your crown and in some of the decorations here. Tell about how you make those things.
So this costume was actually built by makers in the UK, and we actually had someone who specifically made the headpieces and decoration on this. And she actually, each one of those leaves is handmade and decorated. So it took her days, weeks, just to make the decoration for the flower costume. And the other thing that is wonderful about this costume is actually all of the painting on the bodice is hand painted, so you get that lovely mottled effect. The designer's sort of vision for this was the bushes you see in winter, where there's a light dusting of snow and just a few leaves hanging on, but with that kind of hope of spring, so there's just a little bit of blue shot throughout the costume.
So this is spiral steel.
This is spiral steel boning, and we use it to help keep the smooth line that you see here. But part of the reason we use it, there's also just steel boning, which doesn't have as much flexibility. What we like about this is that it can bend and move with the dancer a little bit more. And so the odds of them getting poked go down substantially when we use it. If we use the other one, it just doesn't allow them to move the way that they need to move.
It's quite an engineering marvel.
Yeah, it is almost like chainmail in the way that it is sort of individual links stacked together. So.
And now you mentioned gemstones in this costume here?
Well, she has the rhinestones, which is just a little bit of sparkle you see from stage, and they are all glass, which gives you just a little bit more sparkle than plastic versions.
Right. So you can't tumble dry this. It would
no,
that wouldn't work out.
We
well.
Actually, before we send these to the cleaners, all of the flowers come off, all of the leaves come off, and we set them to the side, and then we reapply them at each season.
And all the rhinestones come off too?
No, we just take the whole piece off.
Oh, I see, because that's where they are.
Yeah, and that is part of the reason behind why they're located there, so that we can take them off and it can be cleaned without losing any of the sparkle.
Dominique, thank you so much for showing us the costume.